Hello, welcome to Tight Lines. Very few anglers have been chosen to fish in the World Course Fishing Championship for England under the age of 30. But this week's guest in the bothy, Callum did just that. What's more, he replaced one of the icons of world match angling, Steve Gardner, on an extremely challenging venue a long way from home. That's pressure. But Callum not only coped, but excelled, becoming Drennan Team England's top point scorer in the event. So, plenty of great tips coming up. Also on today's show, there'll be top draw match action with a report on the recent £25,000 Park Dean Masters, one of the most prestigious events on the domestic scene. We'll also be getting out on the bank for a great autumn roach session I enjoyed last week at Walthamstow Reservoirs in North London. And I'll have my weekly fishery focus with helpful information on conditions and the prospects in store for all types of anglers around the UK. Well, mate, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
How did it feel to replace Steve Gardner in the England team? He's been in it since, what, 83?
Yeah.
A long time, and he's almost like one of the cornerstones of England's success.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of mixed emotions, really, because I know Stevie very well, and he's a very good friend. He's done a lot for me. So to replace him I was over the moon to get the chance, but at the same time felt a bit for him. But I mean, I've been given the chance, so I couldn't do anything else. I had to go. So yeah, no, but it was good. It was good.
That sort of finished off a very, very busy, hectic summer for you, didn't it?
Yeah, manic, but masses, absolutely masses of fishing. But good, I enjoyed it all, and it was a hell of an experience. And
now you've got probably the best time of the match fishing season. Yeah. Not the big money, to be fair, but the best time of the match fishing season, actually catching fish for yourself. Yeah,
I enjoy this time of year more than any. Don't have to do so much travelling. I can stay more local, and the type of fishing that I'll be doing over the next 3 or 4 months is what I enjoy doing the best. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. We'll hear about that a bit later on. Now, alongside Fishomania and Match This, the Park Dean Masters is one of the big money events on the UK match fishing calendar. And a couple of weekends ago, a stellar lineup did battle for the 25 grand on offer at Whiteacres. Of course, Andy Ford was there to bring us a story.
Well, the sun is trying to shine here in Cornwall, but we've had an awful lot of rain overnight and an awful lot of cold water going into Jenny's Lake, the venue for the Park Dean Masters final. Now, when fishing conditions are hard, which they could well be today, you tend to find the best match anglers simply win matches. So who's going to win today? Well, we've got a lineup of potentially the best commercial anglers you've ever seen in a big final. Picking that winner is almost impossible. This year's lineup included Fishomania champions, world champions, internationals and 6 former Park Dean winners. No wonder people said this was one of the strongest fields ever assembled.
This year, I would say, it's the strongest field ever. Frightening, really. But it's a special event, you know. You come down, you've got a chance of, you fish for 5 days to come in the top 24, which is hard enough as it is. And you've got a chance of winning 25 grand. It don't get better, really.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, there are some stars out, so it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, there's a few names here, and then there's me, little old me at the end. So no, it'll be good, isn't it? So there's some big names, but there always is.
It's incredible, really. It's like who's match fishing. It's definitely the toughest final I've ever seen.
From young talent coming through to old timers like me and Tom at the back end of a angling career, and it's always going to take some winning, always going to take some winning.
You're proud and privileged just to be part of it. I mean, I'm next to Cookie, and average age of me and him is about 150, I think, and probably more than not rest of the match put together. And it's all these young ones coming through and getting better and better. It's great to be part of it and be with them.
You're just fishing with the superstars of angling, really. It's the top class field. Obviously, I'm a little bit out of my depth, but it's what you aim for every year when you come to Whiteacres to try and make this final. So,
oh, what a final! Incredible, absolutely incredible. The anglers are just brilliant, really, even on the bad pegs.
To win a match like this one, you've got to draw your socks off. The peg they all wanted was number 16, and it was drawn by Frankie Giannoncelli.
To draw a peg like this, it's unbelievable. I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie. Everyone's going to be nervous when you draw a peg like this, but I'm just going to try my best and fish a match, really.
What's it like being in a match like this with all these big names?
it's daunting in a way, because you think, oh, how am I ever going to win? But to fish against anglers like this, you're always going to learn. You know, you're always going to develop, and you're going to pick up little hints and tips that might win you 25 grand, and it might win you the match at an open match. So you just keep learning, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm just happy to make the final, really. So first one I've been in, like I said, so try my best.
So Clint Elliott got the match underway, and the assembled crowd took their positions, waiting for a classic to unfold. Within 5 minutes, Frankie was into a big fish on peg 16. It was safely landed after a long battle, and he was underway. So was this peg about to give us yet another Parkdean champion? The answer was no. Within half an hour, it became clear a fortnight of incredible storms in Cornwall had taken their toll. This was going to be a tough one. When even the best anglers in the country struggle to catch fish, it's clear something's amiss. The Cornish weather was the main suspect, as pre-match hopes of a big weight disappeared. Put simply, anyone who managed to land a carp was an exception. The plan to go all out for big fish from the start simply didn't work. Paul Holland on peg 8 decided to go for silverfish instead. It was a tactic that would only win him the match if he could keep putting fish in his net for the entire 4 hours. Odd bigger fish were being landed, like this one caught by 2010 Parkdean champion Lee Kerry. Lee qualified for the final by winning 5 sections out of 5 in the preceding Preston Festival. But even a man in this kind of form couldn't persuade the carp to feed. He would finish 9th with just £26.9. Incredibly, not a single one of these exceptional anglers would break £50. Those who said it might be a low weight to win were spot on. But just how low? The realisation had dawned on Des Shipp, who said he had no chance from peg 11 unless it was a hard match. Des got into his stride after a painfully slow start, searching for a bonus carp. The two-time Parkdean Masters champion would weigh £26.13 for 8th place. On peg 21 was Steve Ringer, the newly crowned World Feeder champion. Steve managed to get a few hungry carp into his swim late in the match, but all he could manage was £31.12 and 5th. As the clock ticked down, every single one of these anglers was still in contention. All it needed was a late run of bites if the carp decided to switch on. It happened for Andy Leathers. The man who won last year's Masters title went into the last hour well adrift of the rest. He hooked 3 carp in the final hour, but only managed to land 2 of them. It showed the fish were starting to feed at last. Fishomania champion Andy Geldart suddenly looked favourite. He was having a steady match, landing small F1 carp and silverfish on feeder tactics. The rumour was he already had around £40 with half an hour left. Jeff Vallance was another on the charge in the last hour. With such a low total certain to take the title, it was impossible to pick a winner. The end of the match came and the weigh-in started. 10 of those taking part had less than £20. Another 11 had between £20 and £40. So Andy Geldart knew he was in with a great chance of a double that's only ever been done once before. Only one angler has held the Fisho and Parkdean titles in the same year. That was Neil Machin in 2006. Andy's total was a modest £43.11, but today it looked good enough. That was until the scales arrived at peg 13. Jamie Wild drew where no one wanted to be, stuck between Des Shipp and Lee Kerry in an area with no real form. But in the last hour, his perseverance had paid off. Fishing the entire match on the method feeder, Jamie had managed to land 3 big ghost carp in the final 60 minutes. And his total was £46 5 ounces. Jeff Vallance threatened from peg 17, but his total was £43.3. It meant Jeff was third, Andy Geldart second, and a new name emerged from a stellar field to claim the 2014 Parkdean Masters title.
The trophy this year and the crown for the Parkdean Masters 2014 with a winning rate of £46 and a special 5 ounces at the end there. goes to Jamie Wild.
Was there any point in this match that you thought to yourself, you know it's going to be a low weight today, was there any point you thought, I've got a chance of winning this?
I kept catching the odd fish steady, but nothing of any size, odd little F1s, 10 ounce a pound, and then last hour I've had 3 carp, 2 ghost carp, 7-8 pound a piece, and a mirror about 6 or 7, so that's what, it's just come out at blue really, to be honest.
What does it mean to you to have won this event, Jamie?
It's brilliant, but I'll still have to go back laying bricks on Monday, I'm afraid, but I've at Moon well chuffed. Been brilliant, enjoyed week, it's been a brilliant week, yeah, I always enjoy it here.
Question people always ask when you win a bit of money, what are you going to spend it on?
I think I'm going to go and put it on a little bit of a deposit and buy us, me and girlfriend, an house. We were looking at Game 1 anyway this year, so it'll go to something nice and my kids, so...
Fantastic stuff. Well, listen, I think you've got a date with Jenny's Lake, so I'll let you get on with it. Very best of luck.
So, Jamie Wild beating off an amazing field to win by less than £3. Fisho champion Andy Geldart was runner-up, world feeder fishing champion Steve Ringer was 5th, and England international and 2-time winner of the Park, Dean Deschip, was 8th. Fellow internationals Lee Edwards and Lee Kerry tied for 9th place, with last year's champion Andy Leathers finishing in 11th. The list really does read like a who's who of UK match fishing. Grant Albert was down there in 17th, head of former world champion Tommy Pickering, with multi-Fisho finalist Steve Cook in 23rd. Still, if you're not in it, you can't win it. True, mate. Did you fish the qualifiers?
Yeah, I did. I fished both weeks, 2 festivals. A bit up and down, mixed matches, but not quite enough to get in the final. The last day of the second festival, I needed a win, and I ended up 3rd, so not quite enough, but close. But it was a fantastic field, and it would have been nice to get in it, but not quite this year.
Yeah. The amazing thing about it, though, down there, you've got to be. Like, your worst result's got to be second on section to stand a chance. Yeah. It's crazy.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the standard of angler at Whiteacres, commercial fishing now, is the high as it goes. Exactly. Everybody down there now, everybody knows exactly what they're doing and know the methods and know what to do on each peg. So you've got to draw good pegs and you've got to fish well. If you don't draw good pegs, you can't get in the final.
You don't fish well, you can't either.
No, you don't fish well, you don't get in the final either. So you've got to do both. And, yeah, but all those guys obviously have and done really, really well all week.
It's a tough match as well. I know that where Jenny's is situated, you've got that big slope where the lodges are, and when it rains a lot, you get a lot of cold water going down there, kills the algae, and things go a bit trumpy, don't they?
Yeah, it's a difficult match, that one, because it's at a time of year where the weather can change very, very quickly, and we had some real hot days. We had a load of rain, load of rain, storms, so it could go either way. I mean, it could either fish quite hard like it did that year, but it could fish really, really well like previous years.
Welcome back. Match angler Callum Dix is with me this week, and we've got a fine selection of kit to look at here, Callum, and of course this is all relevant, most of it's relevant to the World Championships in Croatia.
Yeah, it was a bit unregular, the kit we needed. It was a very, very different venue to anything I've ever seen before, but yeah, this is some of the stuff we needed and to cope with the flow.
I mean, you can see there the flow, and to be honest, it slows down a bit on television, but I'll tell you when you notice it, when you're actually fishing, when you see how quickly, I mean, there you're lowering your rig in, and what size rigs were you using there?
That's a 50 gram flat plate.
50, that's 2 ounce, basically, a 2 ounce rig. Yeah. And look at the speed you're having to follow it down with. Yeah. You know, that's like the tide running out of London Bridge. Yeah. I mean, it's deep as well.
Yeah, it was top 6, top 7 deep, so 15, 18 foot. And it's I do a lot of sea fishing, and that is as quick as anywhere I've ever fished sea fishing as well. You know, so it's tidal pace. So it was ridiculous, but at the same time very rewarding. You know.
I bet you wanted to all give Dick Clegg a clump for making the World Championship proposing the World Championship be 4 hours instead of 2.5.
Yeah.
It used to be a 2.5 hour match, you could have handled that. Yeah. But 4 hours of that. I mean, Jamie Wild said he's going back to bricklaying. That must be harder work than bricklaying.
Yeah, well, I've never done bricklaying, but...
No, straight enough, nor have I.
But, yeah, no, it was tough. It was really, really tough because you probably can see from that video then the terrain of the bank and the weather, the flow, everything we'd done, every point of the match, you were on critical. Yeah. Like your pole, your gear, your hooks, everything you'd done was on maximum. You had to fish at maximum for the whole 4 hours. Yeah. And I think one of the guys timed me or one of the other lads in the England team, and we ran our float through about 700 times in the 4 hours. Wow. and lifting a real strong, heavy pole up,
Yeah.
700 times, running a 50-pound flat float through, and then hooking the odd fish was, it was tiring, you know.
I mean, we saw these the other week. I bought Will Raisins in the other week, and they're very, very, very big floats with big weights. But you took this type of float here.
Yeah.
This is you would use more for running through.
Yeah, what we were thinking before we went over, we saw some videos, and actually Will went and fished a couple of weeks before we went over, and he said there was a lot of swirls, so we tend to not go away from the round float, so the flat float was better. But we thought if it did smoothen out at all through the 2 weeks, they might come into it, but it didn't. It never slowed down one bit. All the whole 2 weeks, in fact, it got a little bit quicker, and so the flat floats were the best. But we did have some of them made up just in case.
That's the shotting arrangement. This is without droppers. This is just a bulk shot, and this is lead because you were fishing abroad where lead's legal, and that would equate to, I think, about 12 swan shot for those old traditionalists like me that go in SSGs. There's 12 of them in there.
Yeah, I mean the float's actually 20 grams. I've stuck a slightly thicker bristle on, so it might take just a touch more, but that's the sort of bulk you needed to present any sort of bait.
Now, if we go down to this size here, this is the size that you first prepared for there, and this would be probably bigger than you'd ever need. Yeah. If you have to fish this in English river conditions, then the river's wonky and the river's not good enough to fish, really. It's going to be a bad condition.
If you had to set one of them up in England, you'd be worried that you wouldn't catch anything. You know?
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to fish it.
That, as an example, and this is one I've just pulled out the jar behind me, is the sort of float that I'd use probably on the Thames.
Yeah, definitely.
A gram.
Yeah.
6-7 metres to hand.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. Or short line in 11 metres. In normal flow, normal conditions, a gram is about what you'd need. So there's 20 of them in that, and 50 of them in that. There's 50 of those in one of those. That is just amazing. And the stress on the pole as well must have been fantastic.
The poles we were using were all designed for it. You know, you couldn't use a normal pole. But it's when you actually strike and hook one was the time when everything was on maximum, because the pressure from the 50 gram and the pressure from hooking the fish, the recoil from when you're striking, everything was, every time you struck you thought you were going to break your pole, you know, and there was so many broke, it was ridiculous. I saw 4 float past me during the match the first day. They had lifeboats at the end of the match.
Rescue.
Well, not the people, but the poles.
But now, it's that time of the year, as I said earlier, it's brilliant river fishing in this country. All kinds of mixed fishing as well. And you're based in Bristol, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you've got the Bristol Avon, you've got the Somerset Levels, I guess you go to.
Yeah, Sunday I'm going to the King's Edgemore Drain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I told about that. I fished in 1976.
It's not changed. But no, I'm fishing that. I'm looking forward to it. You know, hopefully it won't be flowing as much as Croatia. So we'll be able to fish a little bit more sensible with some of those smaller flat floats, maybe fishing for tench, big fish, and there's also a lot of roach to be caught. The
strange thing is, you say it's not changed. The fishing now, I mean, people look back with rose-tinted spectacles. 1976, the fishing weren't bad. It was a terrible year for that particular time because we had the drought and the flood, then flooded out. But 1976, if you got 7 or 8 pound, you were going to be there or thereabouts on the Sedgemoor, unless you got big bream or a couple of tench. But there's much better weights than that now.
Yeah. The match, I believe the last match was one with 24 pound. And there was loads of double figures of roach, and that was clear. When it was clear as well, there were people fishing with 5-6 metre whips, and because it was clear, and catching loads of roach. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And they're still catching on hemp as well.
Are they?
Yeah.
Which is a new phenomenon that started about the 90s. Winter fishing on hemp, summer fishing has always been a great bait. But I remember the Nen in the 90s going at her and bagging up on hemp and winning. I won a few quid there as well. But the tactics you're going to be using on Sunday, if you're on sort of the average draw, I've got a question about draws in a minute. If you're on the average draw, what were your approach? Would you be balling it at the start?
I probably won't ball it, no, because I think, speaking to a few people that have been fishing it, loose feeding's been better to catch bigger fish. So if there's a bit of colour in it, which I think there might be after the rain we've had this week, I'll probably fish a big fish line past where I'm going to fish my roach with ground bait. But for my roach, I fancy just potting in hemp and loose feeding hemp and casters, fishing maggots, casters on the hook. But I fancy fishing some ground bait past that, with worms, with corn, big fish baits for some big fish.
Like a throwaway line where you can go to rest your roach line and maybe get a bonus fish.
Just look for indications, if there's any fizzing, any sort of indications of big fish being caught in the area. You've just got that line just to go onto if you need it.
I'll tell you what interests me about rivers. I've learned a lot over the years fishing rivers. Obviously, I was a waggler man, stick float. I preferred that. But when it got to pole fishing, the feeding is so critical. And I mean, you read all the old books and it tells you to feed well upstream, so you can't do that in matches. But I noticed that where your feed hits the water, that's where the fish are. Yeah. Whether it's 4 foot, 14 foot deep, they're right underneath your feed and seem to follow your hook bait down and take it. So I've started now feeding slightly downstream. Do you do the same?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in Croatia, it was 15 to 18 foot deep. And absolutely bombing through. Ridiculous how powerful it was. We fed our bait right in front of us because the fish were 1 metre to 2 metres where the bait landed on the water, the barbel were. And I couldn't quite get my head around that because I was thinking there's no way the bait... Well, it must have been, but you would think there was no way the bait was on the bottom at that point.
And it wasn't.
No,
I don't. I tell you what it is. I think they follow it up.
Yeah, definitely.
And then they swim down as you feed it. They swim down and they take yours down here because it's the last one left, and they know there's something wrong about it. It's got a hook in it for a start. They don't know it's a hook, but it behaves differently from the rest. But you get them feeding so well, they take that, and I think it's a real lesson that anybody that fishes rivers could do well. Just do well to keep it in your mind. Don't throw your bait upstream, because the fish will follow it up.
Definitely. One thing I learned in Croatia, whatever river I go to, no matter how fast it is now, I'll never feed my bait upstream. Never. Not now. Not after seeing what I saw over there. Yeah. Bang in front of me, all down, just like what you said. Yeah.
But we obviously saw you. We know you've been to Whiteacres fishing the commercials. Do you do any of those in the winter, or is it all natural fisheries?
I try to do as many natural fish as I can because it ties in with the England stuff. But I will do a few commercials. Yeah, it's still commercials are still fantastic fishing in the winter. You always get a day's fishing, but I do love my natural venues. Yeah.
But you fish for natural fish, and you're not fishing for carp so much in the winter. Right, it's more roach and skimmers.
It just ties in with my international stuff, you know, and that's really what I want to concentrate on at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I know Jordan, your brother, fishes for big carp too. Do you ever earwig on any of his tactics in the shop? Do you ever go?
No, I've been with him a couple of times, but I don't really get a lot of time. Some of them I would like to do a little bit more of though, but he's still catching loads of fish wherever he's going.
And is he one of these boilie blokes who puts in plenty of bait?
Yeah, he puts in lots and lots of boilies, yeah. I mean, he spends so much time concentrating on his baiting rather than his fishing. Yeah. And he probably spends 5 times as much time baiting up as he does fishing. So he baits and baits and baits, and then when he goes, all the fish are there competing and catches them.
Mate, fail to prepare to fail. Still some amazing catches to be had on commercial still waters too, with carp revelling in the mild conditions, bream active and the roach switched on too. Basically, it's fish how you want for what you want. Usually this is the time of year when perch make realistic targets on baits such as prawn and lobworm, but they aren't being given a look-in by carp. And how about this? One angler fishing for zander at Old Berry Hill this week had a 3-pound odd bream on mackerel. Maybe predators need a bit more of a drop in temperature to become viable targets on commercials, but not on rivers, don't forget. On those commercials, fish pellets and corn for carp and bream on the pole or feeder, and maggots for roach on the waggler. I think that's pretty good advice, isn't it? Are you a maggot or caster man this time of the year?
It depends how cold it goes. I mean, it's fairly warm at the moment, so caster still could be good. But maggots are an awesome bait. So.
If you're going this weekend, I know you're going down the Sedgemoor, as you said, and that will be really enjoyable. A bit of a long way for me to go, but be enjoyable for you. If you're going on a commercial fishery this weekend, just pleasure fishing, what would you do? Would you be fishing for the carp, or would you be looking for...
whatever you fancy, really. I mean, your target fish would be carp, obviously, but I mean, the silvers are still feeding ever so strong, you know, and yeah, they're still there to be caught, and you can catch big weights of silvers this time of year, you know. A couple of the days at Whiteacres, I've done really, really well in my sections, beat the people that caught the carp with just silver. So.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's always a gamble on matches, isn't it? Do you go for those big bonus fish all the time, or do you try and mix it? Like you say, on the Sedgemoor, you'll be feeding one line that you may throw away for the bigger fish. Definitely. And it's gauging it. And I'll tell you something, I've said this many, many times in here. Many years ago, Kenny Giles said to me, great Ken Giles, he said to me, never take the last fish out your swim. No. Always leave, you know, don't wait until you catch nothing before you move. Just leave a fish or two there and then feed it. And I suppose you'll do that when you're...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you got to swap and change. It's not very often that you go to a match and you catch on one line for 5 hours. When you do, you probably win. but 90% of the time you're not going to happen. So the people that can be a bit cute and change lines and keep fish coming for 5 hours, that's why some of the people like Des, they do so well at Whiteacres. They got a way of gauging their swims where they can just keep fish coming and keep fish going in the net for 5 hours. So that's why they do so well.
It is. It's true. It's almost like, I mean, again, another great angler, Ivan Marks, he said you've got to think like a fish. And I suppose there is a degree of truth to that if you're a fish, if you can keep those fish comfortable, keep them happy, if you like, on what they're doing, they're more likely to feed, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you want to get your fish comfortable, competing, and they're a lot easier to catch then. If they're a bit shy and you start thinking about other things as well, like your kit, you start questioning yourself a little bit. Where if you can get the fish where you're feeding and they're competing and they're comfortable, like what you said, they're a lot easier to catch. So there's lots to think about, but if you get it right, you can usually catch big weights this time of year.
And the great thing is, of course, being as it's mild and being as it should be a really lovely weekend for fishing, not everything's on the bottom, is it? You've got to think at depths and ranges
Definitely,
as well.
yeah. The match that we were talking about earlier on the King's Edgemore Drain, the guy that won it actually caught half depth. Yeah, 4.5 foot, yeah, in a night like 9 foot of water. So in this time of year, which is incredible. It just shows you how many fish are in your peg. But hopefully if I can do that Sunday, I'll be in.
Yeah, that's right. If I can do it Sunday, I'll be in as well. I'm looking forward to that Walthamstow Badge, I'll tell you, and catching roach about that deep. That's it for today. Keep in touch with what's going on here via the website and Twitter, and please keep those young angler photos coming in on email. Thanks, Callum. It's been great chatting to you, mate. I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
Now, next week's show, we'll be talking predator fishing and other issues, I'm sure, with Dilip Sarkar, MBE, now of the Angling Trust, and a former president of Pike Anglers Club of Great Britain. Join us at 5:30 on Sky Sports 4. That's next Friday, 5:30 p.m. on Sky Sports 4, plus a few repeats. Of course, don't forget we're also available on demand every week in the Sky Sports section of Catch Up. Have a great week out there and tight lines. Cheers, mate. Well done. Lovely stuff. Good stuff.
Enjoy Sky Sports Live. On all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.